How's it going, everyone? My name is The Starks, and welcome back to another The Last of Us Part 2 video. Well, The Last of Us 2 No Return roguelike mode will apparently have 12 levels. On an article provided by PlayStationLifestyle.net, they state that The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered's recently announced roguelike mode, quote, No Return, will apparently have 12 levels. Leaks via Naughty Dog employees' LinkedIn profiles appear to be the new norm for the studio, with the latest tidbit of information also coming from a former staff member. Naughty Dog has yet to detail The Last of Us 2's No Return mode. However, in its official announcement of TLOU 2 Remastered, Naughty Dog said that it'll share more details about No Return closer to its launch. But if former QA tester Colin Freeman's LinkedIn profile is to be believed, we know that the mode will now have at least 12 levels. As spotted by a Last of Us fan on Twitter, Freeman states that he, quote, created, implemented, and tested AI dialogue regions in-engine across 12 different no-return roguelike level layouts in The Last of Us Part 2's Remastered. He doubles down on that number by adding that he also tested and modified extraneous audio regions and adjusted PAT tags on surfaces and objects throughout 12 different no-return roguelike levels. Now, the article goes on to explain this tweet by a Last of Us fan on Twitter with some screenshots of this. Now, according to the article, they state that Freeman's profile still contains this information at the time of this writing. It appears that he worked for Naughty Dog on The Last of Us Remastered for about one and a half years, let's say, and he also apparently worked on the multiplayer game before his contract came to an end. Now, what's interesting about this is I clicked on his profile on LinkedIn, and I'm scrolling through it right now, and it says, yeah, June 2022, Colin worked as a QA tester, developer, support worker for Naughty Dog full-time, and it says basically 1.5 years, 1 year and 6 months. And if we go and under the description of his Naughty Dog experience, it also states that created, implemented, and tested AI dialogue across the different regions, created, modified, and tested render regions in engine by adjusting lighting levels, etc. What's interesting about all of this is nowhere in this job description detail on LinkedIn does it mention 12 levels. So obviously, it seems as though Colin edited out this information amid the articles and other people that spotted this information, because it was a clear mistake by Colin who specified how many levels that this new game mode is going to have, or this is probably fabricated information, which I doubt it. I don't think sites like PlayStation Lifestyle and other PlayStation-oriented articles are going to go up on this news if it was fabricated, but it's possible. I mean, the digital world is really anything could happen. There's a lot of AI stuff, and really it's not hard to just add and edit out a description, add your own text that's similar to the text present on the LinkedIn profile, and add the number 12. It really isn't. However, I'm going to assume that this is correct, that this was previously what was on his profile, as well as the article states. I mean, a journalist isn't going to write an article for for a brand like PlayStation Lifestyle and say, yeah, so we confirm that it does show that it's 12, because in the ending of the article it states that at the time of them writing this, it appears that that the information still remains on his profile. But I checked it because I wanted to fact check and see if it was still accurate and if this individual made any changes, and it looks like he has. So if we're going to go based off of this article, I'm going to assume that The Last of Us Part 2's No Return roguelike survival mode will have 12 levels or more, at least 12 levels, which is exciting. I think it's extremely exciting because really, ever since Uncharted 4, we haven't had any form of survival co-op I shouldn't say co-op, because this is not going to be a co-op experience, at least not from what Naughty Dog has stated thus far. This is going to be a singular experience where it's just you surviving different waves of infected. And although I'm not the biggest fan of post-apocalyptic horror survival game modes, I am going to fully immerse and indulge myself in this roguelike mode. I think this is extremely exciting. And when I saw this clip of Seraphite Lev shooting a bunch of infected and Tommy at one clip and Mel and I think Dina at one point fighting all these waves of infected, I thought this reminds me of what I think a future for the Last of Us factions is going to look like. And I have a video coming up after this, down a couple days from this recording, we're going to talk about a little bit more about the Last of Us factions and the Game Awards and whatnot. But I think this is an exciting time for Naughty Dog. I mean, I was not expecting The Last of Us Part 2 to be a thing. I know there was rumors. I think there was a leak at one point, and as well as a director's cut. I mean, the potential for a director's cut. I think this is Naughty Dog's version of a director's cut. They're just not calling it a director's cut. I think this is their version of a director's cut, which I covered, I think, almost a year ago now. So it's really interesting that a lot of these leaks and a lot of these little tidbits of information kind of conceptualize and, actually came to be in its own form. And so I think in all, this is really exciting. And, there's different levels. I don't know exactly which areas we're going to be able to explore or how much of a map that we're going to be able to explore as a player. But what I do know is there's going to be different waves and there's a survival time, it looks like, and you get to choose your different guns. I don't know how any of the gameplay in terms of how many ammunition you have or how many weapons you have to use at your disposal to fight off these infected. But it would be cool to see if Naughty Dog were to add a co-op experience. However, I don't think that's going to happen because I think they're going to reserve all of that concept of a co-op multiplayer. And by co-op, I mean more than one, you and somebody else playing together, rather not by somebody else, obviously not AI. So you and another player around the world, a friend of yours, LAN parties, regardless. I think any form of co-op is going to be in the Last of Us Factions multiplayer. I think this is just a little bit of a tease for what's to come for the Last of Us Factions, and I am extremely excited. I am extremely excited to see Naughty Dog finally promote The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered and talk more about this no return game mode, because I know this is the one I'm going to play. I don't really care for guitar. I don't know how to play the guitar, so I'm not even going to bother trying it out. I might just try it out for the sake of it. The no levels stuff is really interesting, and I think I might talk about that in another video. Although I think what really appealed to me was this no return survival mode, because it reminds me of the previous survival modes present in Naughty Dog's Uncharted games, like Uncharted 3, which I played a lot of back in my youth, as well as Uncharted 4's survival mode, which came out, I think, in 2017, a few years, or actually, I think, a little over a year after the release of Uncharted 4, which is a really fun experience. I know who was spearheading that. I think it was Vinita Argawal was one of the individuals or developers on that project who really spearheaded and really pushed that survival mode. And I know it was a successful survival mode. Unfortunately, I don't think it was enough to keep a core player base in Uncharted, but I think it was enough to kind of intrigue a lot of people to come back to Uncharted or to revisit it or to stay on it. And I think people still play the survival mode to this day. I don't know. I play Uncharted 4 once in a while, but the multiplayer is still fun for me. It's just not as fun as Factions, unfortunately. So I kind of stopped playing it. But nonetheless, I'm super excited, and I think 12 levels is more than enough levels. The more the better, of course. But even if we were to just get 6 levels, I think that's more than enough. I mean, the fact that we're remastering The Last of Us Part 2, which released no more than 3 or just a little over 3 years ago, with fresh new content, because usually a remastered, as far as I'm aware, doesn't often contain new content, but it's a graphical overhaul, so you get graphics. The gameplay is it feels a little bit more better because of the resolution and maybe the frames and stuff like that. It was more, usually when I think about a remaster, it's more about the fidelity and the graphical aspect of it, the more technical aspect of performance and graphics. But with The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, I mean, Naughty Dog is not satisfied just remastering a game, I guess. So they're going to give us, the survival mode. They're going to give us the guitar mode. They're going to give us lost levels and other stuff like that, as well as customizations and different skins that we could use, which for some reason is really popular in a lot of Naughty Dog games. This is more of an Uncharted thing. This, I think Uncharted is kind of what amplified this concept of Naughty Dog doing all these different skin things. I really don't care for them at all. Like, I think it's a little uncomfortable for me to play like a chubbier, larger, overweight Nathan Drake, for instance. Like, I just never saw the appeal of it. Whereas a lot of other people in the community said, yeah, I love this. Let's play fat Nathan Drake, or let's play Abby I think one of her suits was like some kind of soldier suit, it looked like, or I think it was an astronaut suit. But I think that was actually Ellie. I don't think Abby has an astronaut suit. I think it was Ellie. Like, I'm not gonna play Ellie wearing an astronaut suit. I think that just looks ridiculous. But don't get me wrong, a lot of people in the community like that, and if that's one of you, by all means, let me know in the comment section below. But yeah, I mean, this is what I wanted to cover today. The fact that The Last of Us Part 2 No Return Survival Mode is likely to have 12 or more levels, and based off of the fact that Colin Freeman, the previous QA developer and support worker on The Last of Us Part 2's survival mode, because of the fact that he deleted the fact that he specified that there's going to be 12 levels on his LinkedIn profile, might actually suggest that it's actually going to happen. So it's going to be interesting to see in the months ahead what actually is fact and what isn't. But nonetheless, I think it's possible that we're going to get 12 levels or more for this no return roguelike mode in The Last of Us Part 2. But I'm curious to know, what are your guys' opinions about the no return roguelike mode? Do you think this is Naughty Dog gearing up for The Last of Us Factions? Do you think you're going to play a lot of this survival mode, or do you think you're going to gear towards replaying the game in different skins like I just mentioned that I don't really like? Or are you going to try your hand at the guitar feature, playing as Joel, just stringing out on the guitar and test your instrumental skill, I guess? Or do you think you're going to play a lot more of the Lost Levels section, which I think is going to be interesting as well? But let me know all of that in the comment section below. And of course, with everything being said, I have been the Starks. Peace.